like 9/11.
Now what has happened here is pure a game of deception that Hamas and its friends played against Israel.
The legend of Mossad, an aura of Israeli invincibility, have been destroyed, shattered. My view is it is beyond a non-state actor. बिल्कुल चूक हुई है, बहुत बड़ी, and from the military point of view, some of it is inexcusable.
It is actually inexcusable.
People should get sacked. Abraham Accords गए, Saudi Arabian deal गई.
वो बिल्डिंगें तोड़ रहे हैं, बम फेंक रहे हैं. The majority of the Hamas has dispersed already. You will now suddenly start seeing a lot of lone wolf attacks. Other resistance groups across the world, that includes our JNK, our PFI, you will suddenly find that there will be a similar kind of attacks attempted.
Why does a terror organization want to show the war crimes that it is doing and live stream it themselves?
Answer lies in your question. The terror organization. This is the terror that he wants to put it into the people.
Where was the CIA? Five Eyes.
Five Eyes, yes.
Where was
My
CIA?
favorite bugbear. They were looking at the plumber.
And when they yes.
Plumber के पीछे पड़े हुए थे.
What is Netanyahu's biggest fear? यहाँ तो हो रहा है. Hezbollah rocket arsenal is 150,000 rockets. कल को उसने अगर Israeli cities पे बरसाया, Netanyahu will have no option but to open up two fronts.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. My guests today are Lieutenant General Raj Shukla and Colonel Hani Bakshi. Joining me in this conversation is my colleague Ajit Dubey. Colonel Bakshi has appeared on the podcast before, and you can watch this episode 18, in which he tells us about the elite unit in the Indian Army, which was created to conduct anti-terror operations. Lieutenant General Raj Shukla headed the Army Training Command in Simla and is a veteran of counter. So, Ajit, I will use the pecking order and I will begin, boss you in that respect. So, I'll begin by asking, and then, of course, because you've done more ground reporting, I would want you to take over. General Shukla, I want to talk about, this, what happened in Israel. And there's a whole lot of talk that there was this intelligence failure, and how could the Mossad and the Shin Bet and the intelligence apparatus in Israel be so clueless that this multi-pronged attack took place. So in your view, what was your first reaction when you saw this? Was it like as civilians we would think, ye kya ho gaya? Was your reaction also the same?
So, my first reaction honestly was that, is this happening with Israel? Because, see, we in the armed forces, at least I personally admire the IDF a lot. Israel has been a national security state, and very often when we used to discuss, the best global models, it used to always be IDF and their intelligence. So if I may just, give a brief overview, and then I'll come to the intelligence sense.
Right.
So you see, in my view, as I was thinking about it, this 10/7 is like 9/11. It is a failure of imagination. This is what the 9/11 Commission said. And I'll tell you why. Look at the epithets that have been used to describe it. Lapid, the opposition leader, says it is the most lethal attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Well, that's saying something.
Right.
The IDF spokesman said that it is the worst civilian massacre in 75 years of Israel's history. And this happened with Netanyahu. He's called, I'm told, Mr. Security, which means he told the Israelis that we'll have this $1 billion fence, a wall along the West Bank, and you are free to do what you like. And, Hani is the int man, but ये Mossad के बारे में क्या कहा जाता है, that, if you got a thought going in your mind about the Israelis, they would know.
Yeah.
That is the metaphor.
Right.
It is the legend of Mossad. और इनको भनक भी नहीं लगी. Now that is surprising. Look at the IDF reaction. People in Israel are saying, where was the IDF? वो एक जो Berry की, the kibbutz about that farming community.
Yes.
People were gunned down, and the first IDF detachments came after 4 hours, 5 hours, 17 hours. Of course, abhi pata lag raha hai that, much of the IDF had been moved from the south to the north along the West Bank. So there are some larger political decisions. But Israel is in a state of shock. And you said कि मेरे दिमाग में क्या ख्याल है.
Right.
This aura of Israeli invincibility, and as I said, the legend of Mossad, they have been destroyed, shattered. Now to restore that, and this is the game, since Israel is a hard state, now to restore that image to redeem the image of IDF, they may get drawn into something which may not be militarily prudent, and therefore it is a double whammy. We have to be very careful about the response. It has to be calibrated. And just 2 short points about intelligence, then we'll give it to Hani. अभी इसकी अटकलें लग रही हैं. I mean, they're not yet established. But now, as it happens, see, I am of the view that there is never intelligence failure. There is always information. It just doesn't get joined. You take 9/11. 9/11, the FBI and the CIA had the names of the hijackers, including their aliases, in their records. It was just that they were in silos and they didn't speak. George Bush was briefed. He said, "You have covered your backside, now let's get on." Many of these issues in the past. In this case now it's been told कि March में there was a meeting in Beirut with the boss of the IRGC Quds, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Quds, जिसमें हिजबुल्लाह के आदमी थे, जिसमें हमास के आदमी थे, and the main actor in this, Hani would know, is the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ. They are the danger guys. एक meeting हुई, and what was that meeting about? I mean, अटकलें ही हैं, but why should people meet? The second thing, yesterday I heard on one of these shows, I think it was a Caroline Glick show, कि the Egyptians, in fact she names Al-Sisi.
Yeah,
Al-Sisi spoke to Netanyahu and said that something big is going to happen. And Netanyahu ignored it. But you see, we shouldn't confirm all that because they are just news tales. But I'm quite sure, this is my military hunch, कि 1-2 महीने बाद पता लगेगा कि सब कुछ था, only the dots didn't get connected. And why they didn't get connected with a state like Israel, which prides itself on technological intelligence, surveillance, is a matter of mystery. And though there are terror attacks, we'll come to this later, if you see, they have been conceived with sophistication, planned with brilliance, and clinically executed. It is a terror attack, but it is a high-grade military invasion. And
It's a military invasion.
We'll come to the details of it. So these are my initial thoughts. Let Hani join in, and then I will tell you when you come to the detailed mechanics of why it needs to be admired in the military sense. मतलब बहुत ही खूबी से, sophistication से किया गया भी, and I'll tell you the small things which will indicate why it was a superbly planned and executed. And therefore, if I may just make this point,
Right.
my view is it is beyond a non-state actor.
Okay.
This has the footprints of Iran. Let's name Iran. It may not be the mastermind, but footprints. देखिए जिस तरह वो drones हुए हैं attack. Those drones, the way they took out the observation towers, the way those quadcopters carrying double tandem charged RPGs hit the tanks from the top. These are months of planning. A very detailed execution, from the tactics to the strategy to the politics, very carefully coordinated. और ये सब चीज़ें हुई हैं, इसमें महारत ईरान की है. Drones, rocketry, missiles. See, why is it that the rockets रोज फायर होते हैं वहाँ पे? This was this barrage of 7,000 which stunned Tel Aviv, which penetrated the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
So there are deep military matters in it, and therefore it leads me to believe that, of course, it is Iran and its proxies. And there is a larger game here. They are taking on USA and the Israel. We'll come to the geopolitics.
On the Iron Dome also. So I believe there were weaknesses to that Iron Dome, which they knew. They had the intel on that. That the weakness that the missiles which came, I'm using terminology which may not be military terminology, but that if they were not targeted towards a specific target, a military target, and they were going to fall on just open ground, there was a weakness in the Iron Dome which they knew that it's just going to fall and there will be no retaliation to that and breaking it down. I don't know the terminology, but I'm just giving you...
Now that you've raised it, just to be complete the argument. See, what is surprising is that why were these 7,000 rockets fired? Because these are called those saturation strikes. You see, Iron Domes can anticipate up to a certain limit.
So
but
about
beyond a limit,
300 rockets they can intercept at a given
वो
time.
तो रोज होता रहता है वहाँ पे.
They overwhelmed that system.
And see, now the larger thing, it is done so militarily. So Subeh, the first thing is the rockets. Now when the political leadership and the military leadership of Tel Aviv is obsessed with the rockets, you have these terror attacks from the south. And terror attacks, you see, अभी निकल रही हैं
Ground forces, you mean?
Ground forces. It's not ground, multi-domain.
Multi-domain.
Gliders, boats, trucks. वो जो breaches किए इन्होंने fence में,
Using JCBs.
six staging areas, which means, militarily आप ले लो 18 breaches, tunnels. ये कैसे हुए? अभी जो 19,000 people who were coming this side every day, पता लग रहा है उनमें से कुछ थे.
Yeah.
So those breaches. Then they go, I told you to take out the observation towers.
Yeah.
And then they go and target 2 formation headquarters, the brigades there. And when the Israeli command and control system is disarrayed, कोई reaction ही नहीं है, they are dumb and blind and deaf, कोई reaction ही नहीं हो रहा, and that is why the IDF didn't react. Now you have this escalation from the north. Today morning, अभी there may be further danger. आज सुबह खबर लगी है कि हिजबुल्लाह की एक brigade has gathered in Golan Heights. The Syrian militias have got together and reinforced that brigade there. Hezbollah से कुछ लोग आए हैं. The deputy commander of one of the IDF brigades and 4 militants Hezbollah के have been shot. So look at it. Now you put yourself as the Israelis. Rockets यहाँ आ रहे हैं. Suddenly terror. And look at that terror जो हम पहले बात कर रहे थे. As these events were happening, the gruesome events of women being dragged, grandmothers being taken, children, immediately on videos. So look at the information space. So Israel was in battle shock. This great country. So no reactions for 6, 7, 8 hours. And how was this orchestrated? They were death squads and now they are calling them kidnapping shuttles. So organized कि लोग लिए, गाड़ी में पहुंचाए फेंस में, उधर छोड़े, दोबारा आए. Now this kind of military planning, I am a military man, you have to get a platoon attack going. So it is firstly very well planned and one of those days where everything worked in their favor. I mean, there has to be destiny in this. Everything went on with clinical precision, और क्या बोलें इसको, absolute clockwork, and therefore IDF, this great IDF, was stunned. 8-9 सबसे ज़्यादा गुस्सा इजराइल में ये है आज कि भाई where was the IDF? 8-9 घंटे, 10-11 घंटे, किबुट्स, neighborhoods में देखिए क्या किया उन्होंने, set fire to houses and were waiting as people were coming out of a window, door, waiting to gun them down. Family के सामने आपने daughter को मारा, उसको load किया, upload किया. So what you said, the terror spectacle played out in real time. Now this is classical information warfare along with the kinetics. Look how the nation will get stunned. So the entire political leadership, the command and control apparatus was immobilized. So it is, I mean, brilliant is the wrong word because it is terror.
Yeah.
But and therefore when we come to lessons in our context, if I may just say so, we also have a muscular foreign policy. With muscular foreign policy, you have to have the highest levels of intelligent and military readiness.
Yeah, we're going to go into
that is the lesson for us. Yes.
Absolutely. We're going to go into details about that. Ajit will also have a couple of questions. Before I hand over to Ajit, Colonel Bakshi, I want to ask what General Saab just said, that, this pincer-like attack when it happens, my mind goes back to 26/11. And at that time too, there was intelligence which was coming in, but nobody connected the dots. And by the time they connected the dots and ye hua tha, it takes time. And then you revamp your intel setup, you do that. Are there any parallels between what happened in Israel and between the terror strikes which have happened in India, specifically 26/11?
Before I come to this, for our viewers, let me make certain issues clear as to how it works. You see, information is not intelligence. You get a lot of pieces of information. You get a lot of inputs, the words that we can use as many prayavachi for it. They make a picture. Based on that picture, there is a mechanism to assess it, analyze it, and then it is turned into intelligence or whatever your specific intelligence that you say. Now, in this case, when we started as young intelligences, there was a Bible for us. A book written by one Mr. Victor Ostrowski, if I spell it right. The book's name was By Way of Deception. He wrote on how Mossad functions. मतलब literally चार्ट नहीं पढ़ रही थी वो किताब to understand how they work, because that was the only available document that we had to, get ourselves to that thinking mode ki how Mossad works. Now what has happened here is pure a game of deception that Hamas and its friends played against Israel. Tickers were coming, information, bits and pieces were coming. There was a meeting of Hezbollah leader. Okay. There was a meeting of Hamas leader al-Aruri and this guy of Palestine Islamic Jihad with Ali Khamenei. they started sending signals, and this is way sometimes in June, May
Of 2023.
of 2023, that during the holiday seasons, this September, October, the Hamas, there'll be attack in Al-Aqsa, in the West Bank. So the entire, the information was being fed deliberately
Jerusalem पे होगा.
कि जेरूसलम में होगा, छुट्टी के टाइम पे होगा. And Al-Aqsa की बीच में से there has been a history where the Jew soldiers have entered when the namaz was on and beatings were there.
It was the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War.
So all the more reasons that they should have been prepared. They got deceived in Yom Kippur, and again they got deceived.
Informational deception.
So this information was being passed. There was information coming in that some kind of new weapons are coming in, jiska ki effect will be very, very collateral on the Israeli troops. And they deliberately got those weapons caught while being transited from Jordan into West Bank. So entire attention of everyone in Israel was towards West Bank. And they were so dead sure that their technology will save them as far as Gaza is concerned. That Netanyahu's security, what General Shukla was saying, they breached that. And beauty is, there was no chatter. Whatever chatter was happening for West Bank. No chatter about Gaza. So all this training that has taken place has taken place somewhere outside. Majority of the Hamas people who have entered inside probably didn't even know what they're going into.
So they fooled technical intelligence, TechInt, and human intelligence, HUMINT.
So the entire they fooled the entire assessment, the best of the brains as far as security is concerned.
Also in the kinetics. You see rockets in the center, terror to the south, the possibility of intensification from the north. Hezbollah being a threatened being. So
And
information
Hezbollah-
में बहुत बढ़िया तरह he's brought it out.
And
but
Hezbollah had
in
also started
execution.
playing another game. They started playing the tactics of Gaza in West Bank. Like they started, making tunnels for command control. They started taking out the cameras that were on the border fence. Right?
Who started taking out?
The Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Okay.
If you're building tunnels, how are satellites not picking it up? You're
So,
taking bulldozers to the
Oh yes, they were
JCBs
wanting it.
जा रहे हैं.
They were
They
wanting you
wanted
to
this
see this.
picture to be created.
They created a picture.
On the West Bank, you're saying? Or
On the West
Gaza?
Bank.
On the West Bank.
on the West Bank.
Okay.
They kept your attention completely for last 2 years on the West Bank.
Yeah, but
The
God-
meetings were open. The meetings with Ali Khamenei was open. The meeting with Abdullahian was open. The meeting between Al-Aruri of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And it was coming on TV shows also. It was coming on YouTube. And they said one more thing, that something big they will do, and there will be a likely situation of a comprehensive war by Israel. This was known, but every time thing was towards West Bank and not towards Gaza, and that is where they struck.
No, but we were talking about the
basically
JCBs moving.
Basically, they talked. No, JCBs moved in the last minute to break the barriers. JCB was just for the breaching of the. Okay, and they used the basic tactics of deception that is taught by the intel agencies of Israel against them.
उन्हीं के tactics, उनके against.
उन्होंने पूरी ऐसी सिचुएशन क्रिएट कर दी थी.
Is this something like what happened with India with LTTE? They used the training that they got against our own forces. Are there parallels with what has happened in India? That's what I'm trying
There are
to
a lot of parallels. There are a lot of parallels, and I'll come down to a couple of parallels. One parallel is your Kargil.
Kargil war. Okay.
We were caught napping. Now, why it happened? There was a DGMI. Okay. And I'm saying this today, and then I'm saying it.
So
in
I'll
open
have to
forum.
break it down, Director General Military Intelligence, because there are overseas viewers
Okay.
who may not know.
So I am saying this because it is a lesson that we need to learn, especially after the kind of brutality that we are seeing in Israel. What happened was there was a DGMI. Generally, DGMIs do not come from the military intelligence. They are outsiders who just come to this coveted appointment. He went, later came as the chief. He had his own ideas. and he tinkered with the chain of command of the entire military end. So when the chain of command changes, the requirement of a superior formation to get information and the requirement of a brigade level formation to get information changes, because he's looking at small pockets, the other man is looking at larger pictures. So that larger picture thing was broken, and because of this, nobody was start looking across what is happening. And we had Kargil. Coming to 26/11, as you'd asked, now let me tell you something. The logistics by the Lashkar were sought through their sources from us. The JK police, the military intel, the IB. All three had information. Everybody knew, but the assessment went wrong. Because when you are, you become very complacent about a situation. कि नहीं कुछ नहीं हो रहा अभी situation अच्छी है. ठीक है? When that complacency sets in, your assessments again go by that. Here complacency set in Israel. Again here. Information was coming from the CIA that guy has carried out, Headley has carried out the complete recce. In fact, if I'm not wrong, Maria went a day before to Taj Hotel to check the security.
The police chief, Rakesh Maria. Hanji.
He went, he did a personal round there. Okay. We were very sure that what we are providing is actually not meant for J&K, but will be used in the hinterland, but maybe as a communication, small-time communication for sleeper cells. Nobody connected that amongst these three, because we have our little pockets. JK police, I don't blame them because they were there. Me, because I was in a certain area. The IB, when they were getting inputs from the CIA, nobody contemplated that what has been provided as logistics. Because we were happy, we've done, we were very happy about having achieved that we have been able to penetrate and we are providing certain logistics to the Lashkar. Nobody even had a wink of an idea that it was going to be used there. Of course, later it did help us.
How do you provide information to Lashkar?
The Lashkar was using us. They used us for their logistics.
How? That's what I
They asked for certain, I will not be able to mention, they asked for certain logistic supports, which we gave happily.
Why?
Because we wanted to know what exactly they're going to do or when they are in.
Okay, it was used as a bait.
It was used as a bait. We happily gave it. Because, we will use it when they will be using it, so we will be aware of what is happening.
Okay.
But they used it when they came in and started the strike.
Okay.
Whereas we didn't even have a little idea that this kind of an attack will happen. Now 26/11, if you compare it with Israel, तो बच्चा था जो उन्होंने किया इधर.
I'm going to come to you, sir, about having a muscular foreign policy and intel capabilities to which go hand in hand. But before that, Ajit, I'm going to hand over to you.
Sir, like you talked about this invincibility of the Israeli system. Now, in the recent past, there have been a lot of books. You go to a railway station or a bookshop, you will find 2-3 books, how Mossad does its operations, and they're very popular books. Even in military, when we talk to people about some technology being deployed on the LOC fence or the fence in the BSF sector or in the eastern sector, they say if to prove its robustness and effectiveness, people say this is
Used by Mossad.
used by Israel in, against the Palestinians. Now, whenever, like we have seen in a lot of our events like Def Expo, Aero India, when the Israelis come and meet up with people, they come with a certain attitude. Like people look at them with awe that, oh, this is Israeli, he will not talk, he's so strict, so strict. Do you think, sir, that you were talking about that how they were used and how their own they were fed fake information or false information to believe a certain picture, and they were very smug that, oh, we know what is going to happen. Is this like this loss of humility and self self-belief or being self-convinced that okay, we are the masters of the game.
Invincibility.
Invincibility. Oh, wrong things happen with others. We can play games. We
हम
are the
security
masters.
state
We are
हैं,
the
हाँ.
masters of the game. Nobody can play with us. It's this sense which led to the downfall and the breaking of this castle. And now when these people go out, now when people talk about this books on deception and all these, has this been dented totally, destroyed totally?
See, one thing I have always believed, and I have spoken this at many forums in the army when I was serving. Nothing can replace human intelligence. You can depend on technology. There will be always a counter to that. When we use a certain simple term like ECM, electronic measures, electronic countermeasures. Okay, so when the Israelis kept thinking that their ECM methods that they are using are the best, they didn't realize that there are bigger brains, and a particular religion group may not have that capability brain-wise which they have. We all are aware that the first virus in the computers was made by a Pakistani. So, ये चोर सिपाही वाला काम तो चलेगा. Only thing that Israel made a example for themselves, and then they started selling and marketing it. Right? Now, when you market some capability, you must remember, within your state, you may be able to deny information to the enemy, but the moment you have sold this property rights to somebody else, that somebody else may, sell it to the Israel's enemies.
And
Yeah, that's a very pertinent point.
And
We talk about this end usage bit with regard to aircraft. कि उनको अगर F-16 बेचेंगे तो वो आगे किसी को नहीं दे सकते. Those are big things, but
those
you
are
can
visible
sell
things.
Those are visible things, but tactics and even your handsets,
And-
those also.
And the moment you are in,
if sorry for disrupting you, sir, but about 5-6 months back, the 4th season of the popular series Fauda came out.
that's broken.
You
I
know-
am telling you that's
no,
broken.
I'll tell you.
And the best part is,
I
Doran
remember-
was himself hiding inside.
Doran was fighting. That's
And-
right. He
and-
was in a bunker.
He was in a bunker. But I'll just tell you, sir. They in the 4th season there is a sequence where Doran's unit and people associated, the attackers and the people who operate inside Gaza and West Bank, that specialist unit is attacked by the Hamas group and they managed to reach their home with 14-15 at 14-15 different places. They are able to kill some people are saved, and that the hero saves the plot. But the moment, like when I was watching this attacks break out on Saturday morning, this was the sequence that came to my mind. Is it possible that they could have been inspired by this? Because you are telling how you operate. In a way.
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. When you start propagating your, victories, the times of Golda Meir was different. Okay. The communications were not so good. Today, with the communications, the kind of communication, it's in your hand. You have 5 senses. This is 27. The moment you are stressed and you have a phone in your hand, it senses that you are stressed. They start managing your behavior. 27, 28 senses in this phone. When your heartbeat goes up, when your pulse goes up, this phone that I'm holding in my hand and telling you is sending this signal to somebody. And with the, Chinese phones coming in, with the Chinese systems coming in, Hawaii, right? Every single sensor of your body, sense of your body is going through these senses. Today what we are discussing, and I can assure you with my phone here, before even this podcast comes out, somebody will have heard it. That's what this phone gives. It's a phone, it's a device that we use it sometimes to communicate. More of the time we are carrying a bug for somebody else. So you have to be prepared. So वो जो आप उसको पिक्चर में बना के दिखा रहे हो, आप उसको वेब सीरीज में दिखा रहे हो, they have got brains sitting there observing this only.
nothing is a secret, right?
Nothing
You
is
see, if you, as he was speaking, I was recalling my IMA days.
Right.
The first thing you were taught was surprise and deception. You know, statecraft is all about surprise and deception. Sam dam dand bhed. It is all about all this. Sun Tzu ki badi famous saying hai, move in the west, strike in the east. Classically, what was done here?
Art of
West,
war.
West Bank pay, art of war. And therefore, the larger issue is, I was reading somewhere that intelligence is the first line of defense. Intelligence is so important. Now, if we just see, I relate it with my Kashmir days. एक रॉन रस्किन की बड़ी फेमस किताब है 1% डॉक्ट्रिन. It says in the world of intelligence, if there's a 1% chance of something happening, 99% it will. So when I was the GOC there, जब हम जाते थे, तो I used to wonder, यार सारी हमारी पूरी तवज्जो was on the LAC. तो these gun areas जो पीछे हैं, they are not vulnerable. Now this was just a wild thought, or it was a worry, और मोहरा हुआ. Towards the end of my tenure, I used to wonder, why is this uneasy calm in Uri?
Sir, in
Uri.
Okay.
And I left, and 2
You
months
were
later,
commanding
Baramulla division.
Baramulla division.
Same division as General Rawat, General Chowk.
I was-
Now, what I'm trying to tell you is there are very fundamental issues. But here in this case, why Mossad? Where was the CIA? Five Eyes.
Five Eyes, yes.
Where was
My
CIA?
favorite bugbear. They were looking at the plumber.
And when they yes.
Plumber के पीछे पड़े हुए थे.
Oh, देखिए how difficult it is. The CIA got everything right in Ukraine. They got everything right and got everything wrong here. So the serious point is that, see, intelligence is a very serious business craft. And here, if we can come to the Indian context, especially
Right.
the army, what this point that he made, I agree with him 100%. It cannot be the domain of generalists. You see, the Americans and all, the boss of the National Security Agency, not the advisor, National Security, is an int guy. The boss of their cyber command is an int guy. He specialized in tech int all his life. This business of the Indian Army just has to change. In fact, the Kargil Review Committee, when it created the DIA was supposed to be an intelligence czar of the defense services. Oh, he started aggregating tactical intelligence. So we have to make these changes before we are hit. So I'm saying कि हर चीज में एक सीख है हमारे लिए. You know, in this-
It's a very significant point. Before we are hit.
Before we are
He
hit.
doesn't say in case we are hit.
In case.
The
And
presumption should always be that before that we will be hit.
And I make one more
We are
point,
at a
Smita.
continuous war.
देखो लोग कहते हैं कि पैसा कहाँ है? See, deterrence is costly, but wars are costlier. Ask the Ukrainians, ask the Israelis today. It is always better to invest in deterrence. It will cost you a little bit of money, but it is
Very well
always.
said.
और
Very
ये
well
जो
said.
reforms, our biggest problem today is perhaps not the Chinese, but our refusal or inability to reform itself. अगर हम इंट में रिफॉर्म नहीं करेंगे, थिएटर कमांड्स नहीं बनाएंगे, तो they may not be immediate consequences, but there will be consequences because national security today is getting so complex and sophisticated. And I was telling Honey outside, we must take the example of G20. If you make national security de-elitist, take it away from Delhi and these defense policy wonks and all, छोटे शहरों में आप ले जाइए, you will find greater common sense. And it is these things about national security which will put pressure to being reformed. The experts have failed to reform it. आपस में बात करते हैं, seminars में good phraseologies here and there. But the pressure is not coming. And this will come later when I say that this government has taken very significant steps in national security. But the threats are so much that we need an even greater transformation.
And more
a national
dynamic.
security
Right.
makeover.
So you did mention that this coordinated attack, it is not something. It's something that would have taken months of planning. Both of you were saying this, that non-state actors नहीं हो सकते हैं. There is some kind of a strategy which has been used and they've been trained and there was communication also. Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, just adding to this point, like before we move to the bigger part of it, sir, like I would like to ask you, General Shukla, can you explain the entire attack, whatever you have been able to pick up as a military commander who has seen, who has been responsible for drawing the training and how this should be carried out. Can you please tell us, sir, that how, draw us a picture, sir, how they would have done it from their side before beginning the attacks and how it would have played out? Because the Yom Kippur and all other wars where the Israelis have stunned the opposition, all the Arab countries, they all started in the wee hours. Like they bombed entire Egyptian air force and made them stay on ground when they were all using Egyptian pilots were using toilets early in the morning, and they could not take off. So how they would have done this? If you can draw a picture for our viewers, sir.
तो एक तो ना you spoke about Yom Kippur. So look at the comparison of the Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur में Syria and Egypt, they crossed the Suez Canal and the Golan Heights, and most of Israel thinks that they are gone till the army recovers. The comparison here is that for a non-state actor to do almost something similar what powerful armies did is something that has to be admired. I mean, they almost created similar jitters. It was in battle shock. तो Yom Kippur से comparison ये है. दूसरा 50 years to the anniversary. See, look at the number of coincidences on a festival day. So these things have happened in Israel's history.
Paragliders to kabhi nahi aaye. This was a new thing.
Paragliders is a new thing.
Yeah.
But you see, there are similarities and some differences. Let me put you the attack very simply. क्या हुआ? In my view, in hindsight, of course with the benefit of hindsight, कि पहले वो rocket attacks आते हैं सुबह 6,000, 7,000. They are different from the sense that they have never really brought down buildings in Tel Aviv. उस type का नहीं हुआ है. You know, it's never been taken beyond an escalation. There is saturation strikes. And as you are focused there, वहाँ पे ये आते हैं. In those 6 breaches, कुछ tunnels हैं, कुछ जो wall की breaches हैं, उसको वो अब the basic army question is dawn की बात होती है. We do all our stand twos at dawn.
The dawn. That's the basic drill.
Basic drills. All obstacles.
Dawn and dusk.
All obstacles are covered by fire and surveillance and reaction.
There is a
क्यों
sipahi
नहीं
in
हुआ?
every bunker, every trench, every day.
And these are these $1 billion fences which set off multiple alerts. So बड़ी कमियां भी रही हैं IDF में. I mean, on a holiday they were relaxing. Many of those commanders were caught in their pajamas.
So it seems some stuff which is coming out, information धीरे धीरे निकल रहा है, that to penetrate this, they obviously had tools with them, and those tools were probably brought in batches. Like if you, for example, if you have a rod is brought in batches and then assembled, and they increase the number of permits over the past couple of years of people who were coming in from Gaza every day. So when they bring in more and more people, तो आप छोटा सा एक लेके आए, your next person brings the next one, it's assembled.
They also carry information back. कौन सी formation कहाँ है, कौन सी platoon कहाँ है. And you know, this broader lulling in. Netanyahu was convinced that this live-in experiment with the Hamas is working. They have reconciled to the fact कि हम 19,000 लोग आ रहे हैं, उनकी economy खुल रही है, ये हो रही है. And he was led to believe, and this is the larger geopolitics. See, in his larger strategy, what does he do? This happens at a time when the Arab world is coming to terms with Israel, which is a big thing. The Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia ki deal. Or Netanyahu, what is his political response? See, that Palestine doesn't matter so much as long as I get the larger reset right. और अभी हुआ क्या है? Because of this Palestine thing coming, जैसे ये कैमरा इधर घूम रहे हैं इजराइल में, I think you raised it outside. These same cameras are focused on the Gaza Strip, जहाँ पे air strikes हो रही हैं.
Your West Bank.
And Gaza both, जहाँ पे air strikes हो रही हैं. As the Arab world watches the reaction, look at their emotions. Abraham Accords गए, Saudi Arabian deal गई. So Netanyahu has also lost the larger game of reaching out to the Arab world. One more significant thing you see. Before this incident, in my view, Netanyahu की रोज briefing क्या हो रही होगी? Iran enrichment 80%, 90%, 1 week away from a bomb. Iran was very scared that an Israeli preemptive strike will come. By doing this, they have taken Netanyahu's focus from the WMD to a regional war. So I think there is a larger connect. ये जो चीज़ हुई तो बड़ी सफाई से है, but it is larger drivers, there is larger international politics. तो ये है. And once we were coming to that. अब उसमें देखिए बारीकियाँ क्या हुई. Why was it not covered by fire? Why not surveillance? तो चूक तो हुई है. Then this business की 9 घंटे आप terror rampage. I mean, this shuttles are very surprising. कि भाई वो गाड़ियों में आप hostage छोड़ते हैं, वापस लाते हैं. Where is the IDF? I mean, it feels very bad to comment on an army like this, brother army. But बिल्कुल चूक हुई है, बहुत बड़ी. And from the military point of view, some of it is inexcusable.
It is actually inexcusable.
People should get sacked. कैसे हुआ ये सर?
I'm sure there will be. I
There
mean,
will
there will
be-
be no quarter, on in taking corrective action.
And if I may, Smell, you
Sir.
one last point. It is this question that he raises na, is a technology human. I differ slightly with Hani. We should never raise these questions. But technology or human always have to go together.
Sir,
जैसे इसमें very smart human business, the fact कि भाई कोई chatter नहीं हुआ कुछ, but also technology. Look at those drones. Look at those quadcopters. Look at how they took out the surveillance towers. I have seen it. The great significance of technology on the LC fence, and there were many people against it, saying कि भाई fence में technology नहीं होनी चाहिए. I remember General Odda was one big man for technology. General
yes.
Bakshi. So technology matters. ये सवाल ही नहीं है technology versus human वाली बात ही नहीं है. They are together always. Perhaps you are saying the same thing.
I'm actually saying the same thing now.
that's right.
When last when you were saying about the technology and about the investment into intelligence, I was about to say that, but unfortunately I couldn't add that. We need to invest now more on human intelligence, because human वो कर रहा है, कब करेगा, वो human intelligence देगी. आपको पूरा चैटर मिल जाएगा. You will get everything. You will make a picture. This is going to happen. When, where, with how much.
At the end of the day, honey, intelligence is also hunch. It is a military hunch.
It's a hunch.
Which will come to you after years of. So the intelligence man cannot be taken out of the system.
Right. We were talking about this brutality of this attack, right? Why does a terror organization want to show the war crimes that it is doing and live stream it themselves?
The answer lies,
What is the-
answer lies in your question. The terror organization. This is the terror that he wants to put it into the people. It's all about that word terror. Brutality, beheading, decapitating.
शुरू कर
Now
दिया
it's
उन्होंने.
coming कि
Over the
बच्चे आ
last
रहे हैं.
night 2-3 लोगों को उड़ा दिया.
अभी वो जिंदा जलाना चालू कर दिया उसके वीडियोस. And they wanted the world to wake up with this. Why we use the word terror? Terrorist. It's terror. That's the root word. And he has achieved it. Now look at it. After having done this, he has humiliated the complete of Israel and its conscience. Now the way Israel is going back, they have drawn him into this. Now the Muslims will die there. You may be an Indian, somebody may be what, but in the Intifada world, it is a Muslim. There have now voices started raising in Canada, their voices started raising in Europe, in America, out of all places, Australia. Australia में something like this can lead to their citizenship being withdrawn. Yet they are doing it. So
Melbourne
have-
में हुआ था, it seems, right?
Sydney, they tried to even attack the
So-
Opera House.
Opera House, yeah.
So now what will happen is with this polarization, there is a mind amongst the youth of this community. I am not trying to be politically correct or incorrect. But
Right,
that's
sir.
a fact. So you will now suddenly start seeing a lot of lone wolf attacks. Other resistance groups across the world, that includes our JNK, our PFI, you will suddenly find that there will be a similar kind of attacks attempted just to prove a point.
Like what you are saying is, sir, like what ISIS did in Iraq and Syria against the
कोई
Shias
यजीदी लड़कियों के साथ किया था,
and
इन्होंने इनके साथ
Yazidis.
किया.
तो इन्होंने जो वहाँ पे मारा, they had become hero in their world,
In their world.
and they inspired a lot of people to take up arms, and a lot of
Exactly.
people ran away from Kerala and Karnataka to join ISIS.
Kerala, Karnataka, so it's been happening since 2000. In fact, I keep tweeting a lot of times. In fact, at the cost of repeating my tweet, I tweet. There were people caught. In fact, one day what happened was, ये मैं इसको फिर से रिपीट कर देता हूँ. कब्बन रोड के पास थोड़ा सा एरिया है. So one day a guy was coming on a motorcycle, and a policeman stopped him for his driving license.
This is
He
central Bangalore.
Yeah, and next to the sub area, your Brigade Road and that
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Okay.
Cantonment area.
So this guy was stopped, and for his driving license and not wearing a helmet. So he said, गाड़ी के कागज, and he said, सर ये तो मेरा एक क्लाइंट है, तो वो अपनी गाड़ी मेरे पास छोड़ के गया है. वो कहाँ गया है? बोला सर वो तो आईसिस ज्वाइन करने गया एंड ही इज प्राउड अबाउट इट कि लाइक दिस गाय. नाउ दैट कांस्टेबल कॉल्ड अप द इंस्पेक्टर ओवरनाइट, द मतलब विद इन आवर्स दे सेड इसको लेकर आना है कि वहीं. बोले अभी तू वहीं पकड़ के रख. दे केम द क्वेश्चन एंड इट टर्न्ड आउट अबाउट 18 guys had gone.
And that is how this entire nexus was broken.
That's how people came to know
What you
that
were
this
saying,
is.
sir, it's a matter of luck sometimes.
So it is a matter of luck actually.
कि वो
But the
पकड़ा
whole
गया.
thing was subdued. Reasons of political parties, whatever.
This hostage thing
जी.
is very important. In Netanyahu's response, it is going to be central. And I'll just tell you with a couple of examples why I think why. See, this is a hard state now. To restore deterrence, to redeem the IDF's image, it will have to use hard power.
They've been humiliated badly.
Humiliated. And a
And-
hard state. It's not a soft state. And to do that, the only way to restore deterrence is to kill more number of Palestinians. I don't see how it's going to happen. And in doing that, see, there is a history to it. And it is so serious. Just yesterday, he has appointed one of the most famous Israeli commanders, Gal Hirsch is his name, to look at the hostage issue separately. एक समय था जब their policy was no hostage exchange.
No hostage exchange.
Then they changed. Netanyahu, in his last term, there was a soldier called Gilad Shalit. 5 साल के बाद उसको छोड़ा. Netanyahu personally escorted him. And the exchange rate something was एक Israeli captive के 1,000 Palestinians. अभी 150 हैं आपके पास. 38
Including Americans.
including 38 international
Yeah.
citizens. Look at his dilemma. And as they are going to use it to great effect. And see, there is also a history. I'll just take 1 minute. 2006 में इस तरफ Hezbollah captures 2 Israeli soldiers. And look at the state. For 2 Israeli soldiers, they launch an air campaign. 2,700 airstrikes, some 290 naval bombardments. Why I'm saying it, I wrote an article those days, or ye figure thi, I just pulled it out yesterday. Some, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble, itne bridges destroyed, ye wo. And the land campaign was still dubbed a failure. In fact, it was taken to such a level that Ehud Olmert was the prime minister. He was investigated by the Vinograd Commission. Now, these are all the dilemmas before Netanyahu. When he does this, what will constitute victory? And his famous response, Olmert ka tha, half of Lebanon destroyed and still a loss. ये dilemma है Netanyahu. And this campaign is not going to go easily. कल उससे उसने शुरू कर दिया है. As those hostages get taken out, which they will, and they've got 150 to play with, his military options will be circumscribed.
When I was talking about that, they were saying that a comprehensive war will take place post attacks in Al-Aqsa and all that area. They also mentioned that we are prepared for it. So now today, after what happened that day, the Hamas would have melted away. अब जो हो रहा है वो बस सैंपल बनाया जा रहा है. The main enemy, they were prepared for this. They would have gone underground. वो बिल्डिंगें तोड़ रहे हैं, बम फेंक रहे हैं. The majority of the Hamas would has dispersed already.
And hostage capture, honey,
अब
was
मारोगे
part of
कहाँ
the
मारोगे आप?
design.
Part of design.
Because so they have
That is
seen
part
through
of-
the campaign.
That is what he
into
said. We are
its,
prepared for it.
So ये जो decapitating, showing bodies, showing women who have been gang raped, they're bleeding from their pants because the brutality of it all. So doing all this, you said it's a terror organization wants to strike terror in the minds of people that हम ये capacity है हमारे में और हमने करके दिखाया so that they can get more people to join the organization. Now, on the other hand, you are seeing that attacks have started from the other side. Now, Israel is doing that. They've captured terrorists and no prisoners taken. Their bodies are there. लाशों की ढेर पड़ी हुई हैं that they have neutralized X number of people.
That they are saying.
That, yeah, okay. So there are bodies, whatever, and we have to presume that they have killed terrorists and that is there. Now, is it necessary to show their population that we have neutralized? It's that also
important.
part
Yes.
of mind games.
They have to
So,
get out
and then
of
I'm
the
going to come
simulation.
back to the India context because I remember when Sushma Swaraj had said कि हमारी अगर हमारे soldiers की मुंडी काटी है तो हमको भी मुंडी देखनी
एक
है.
के बदले 10.
10. तो till that, and then at that time I remember talking to some people saying मुंडी काटते हैं but बताते नहीं हैं. Right? It happens but we don't tell. Now you tell me this, that for the psyche of your nation it's necessary to show that, or is there a bigger picture?
In our case, it is not for the psyche of the nation. It is for the psyche of the troops. One of theirs or two of theirs has been cut. Heads taken away. You remember there was a case of Hemraj.
Yeah, that's the one
Hemraj
Sushma
and,
Swaraj.
Hemraj and Sudhakar Singh.
Yeah.
There was no response because of one weak man on the top. No names taken. There was no response. They exactly knew because the top man is weak. The commander that he has put in that brigade is of the same psyche because he was his man. And they knew that there will be no response. ये कहानी बाहर ही नहीं आती. अगर रिस्पॉन्स हो गया होता तो हेमराज का नाम आना ही नहीं था, किसी को पता भी नहीं चलना था. ये कहानी बाहर इसलिए आ गई because people, their psyche, they were not getting the
Revenge.
revenge.
The
is part.
Paltan, yeah.
Revenge is part of human behavior. Basic psychology. And let me tell you something. The enemy has a fantastic system. They make personality cards of the commanders across. And they exactly know what is the kind of personality the man is. They could have struck anywhere along that 600-700 kilometers of line of control or international boundary. But they struck exactly where the commander was weak. We have this concept. We make personality cards. And that personality card thing comes only from human intelligence. It cannot be from technological intelligence. Because somebody close to him has to tell you कि अरे तेरा साहब कैसा है, तो he'll tell कि साहब तो यार ऐसा ही है, ये साहब बहुत तगड़ा है.
And then now the phones.
Phones, of course. This technology is...
And now they know.
In your deeds.
in
and
the
your
deeds.
deeds.
So the battalion knows कि भाई मेरे opposite जो battalion है क्या करेगी. So there is tactical deterrence on ground.
They
Deterrence
know
can,
man to man.
I mean they get to know after a while. जो हनी बता रहा है पता लग जाता है कि ये
You've
पलटन
done
मजबूत है.
tours in Kashmir. You've done tours in Kashmir too. Will this also give muscle to this whole talk कि इंतफादा फिर से होना चाहिए, कश्मीरी इंतफादा, which we saw in 2010, was it?
2010.
2010.
And I was...
strangely enough, I had just come back from Israel then. And I had seen the crowd control measures that were used then.
That was what 2010, the stone pelting and everything happened with Masrat Alam and all those
Masarat
people.
Alam, yes.
So that was a fallout in Kashmir.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at it, similarly what has happened here, there will be fallouts here. Though things are under control, but we cannot take complacency. It was complacency that led to the Rajouri attack where that vehicle taking your, iftar ka khana and everything got hit. Okay. So you started putting your attention there. They hit somewhere else. We lost 3 officers and a Jawan.
You see, it's a big challenge. See, I'll tell you in the Indian context, आप देखिए. If you look at us, I think our adversariality is pretty high. And I'll tell you why. आप देखिए LAC पे क्या हो रहा है. Moment Rajiv Gandhi finishes with his visit of 1988-89, we set into motion these agreements.
China visit.
Confidence building, ये वो. Now look at the two outlooks. China ka deception is built into their statecraft. We are a little
is
more
genetical.
trusting. Now see how it starts. As the two armies are focused on keeping peace and tranquility, that's the exact word, along the LAC, he starts creating a massive military infrastructure in depth. And every time we question, कहते नहीं साहब agreements हैं. He will not violate the agreements. We must trust. I'll resource it for you. अब दोबारा पूछते थे कि भाई अभी ये एयरफील्ड्स क्यों बन रही है, बंकर्स क्यों बन रहे हैं, हमें कुछ करना चाहिए. So the answer was, no, his primary orientation is Taiwan. We need not bother here. And because he thinks like that, he doesn't think like us. He uses those agreements to create deception.
To lull us into
Yes, and we are
complacency.
trusting. Democracies are like that.
But वही soft state, hard state वाली बात हो गई ना?
हाँ, तो and therefore one of the reasons Galwan happens. Therefore we must not repeat the same mistakes. अब देखिए जो Western horizons की बात है. See, आजकल आप देखिए common sense wise, we should be looking at China. That is what rebalancing has done. And Pakistan has driven itself into a corner. At least for the moment, it's a bit player. It really doesn't matter, or doesn't matter so much. But when I say, should we become complacent along the Western lines? Look at the problems.
India's western border.
Western lines.
Pakistan.
Though they are
Just for overseas
हाँ, बिल्कुल
viewers.
West,
Sorry.
Pakistan and beyond. And see, now as we grow in a state, we have to start looking beyond. I'll tell you why. It is not merely Pakistan. Look at TTA, TTP, LET, JEM, remnants of ISIS, remnants of Al-Qaeda. Look at this larger nexus, Pakistan, Taliban, Iran, Turkey. It is rewriting the politics of Eurasia. Drone superpower, dicey player, China. I'm seeing the threat there. There are no guarantees, but could the threat be recoalescing? Of course it could. If I'm any of these players, I will say, अच्छा इंडिया अभी तो मौज में है. होने दो 2-3
ज़्यादा
साल.
ही चौड़े हो रहे हो.
ज़्यादा ही चौड़े.
तो
Therefore,
उसी
my
का
first
कहते हैं.
point,
Right.
muscular foreign policy, please be more aware of this because now you are muscular. आपके, तेवर आक्रामक है. In readiness, and look at it, this doesn't end. Today, the Navy plan is in the IOR. They have a capacity of being there for 79 to 80 days. If you turn to the seas, China's naval capacities are 132 times more than USA. USA. If we don't turn to the seas, it's late. Now people will say, why should you? We are the 5th largest economy. We are going to be 3rd largest. We are in the big power competition.
Actually, no.
You have to start thinking like a big power. See, a military which is structured to secure a $3 trillion economy and a military which will soon be asked to secure a $35 trillion economy. Its character and profile has to change. It is not changing at the same rate. And that is not the military alone, military, defense, national security. I'll just give you one piercing piece of statistics. America, by its complacency, it spends $850 billion. China spends $290 billion. China, in the last 20 years, has added more military muscle at less costs. You can be cost effective in national security. I am now quoting the US Under Secretary of R&D, not a Chinese claim. He says because of their better innovation, reforms, theatre commands बनाए, ये सब किया है, cultural corrections. Today, from operational idea to inventorization, if China takes 7 years, the mighty Americans take 17. They say if you reduce the two navies by 50%, China and USA को वही नेवी खड़ी करने में 20 साल लगेंगे, चाइना को 3. In all emerging technologies, AI, AI जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं हम, in 44 of these technologies, 37 China leads. I am saying, and therefore the importance of Atmanirbharta in defense, innovation, creativity. Sometimes it's not understood. Unless we become innovative, creative, talent in defense, you will not be able to catch up because it is a sophisticated game. अब इंडिया की प्रॉब्लम क्या है? I can say China is a threat, terror अभी नहीं है, but in my heart I know terror भी हो सकता है. The oceans are also there. You have to find the fact that you are in the big league now. You have no option but to think it is a huge challenge. It is a huge challenge to do all these things.
The aggression which you are talking about you are talking about the threat from China. Now, 2020, the aggression which they did with our troops near the LAC, Pengongso and Galwan area, it was similar. Come in large numbers, attack, capture. That is what they tried to do.
See, Ajit, I'll tell you, and let me just finish it off now. When I'm talking of national security, it is sometimes not understood. This government has taken huge steps in getting our national security going. CDS DMA is what? It is more powerful than Barry Goldwater Nichols. It is telling the military that we have given you a CDS, now please drive change through the national security system. It is a very difficult task. Theatre commands नहीं बन पा रहे. Just take one metric. I'm just telling you where the direction, the distance we have to travel. CDS is what? The Americans had a CDS in 1949. उसके बाद से Gulf War I, Gulf War II, they have grown. It takes years to jointness to grow. These new normals in our strategic outlook, Balakot, Kailash, you think our adversaries are not watching? They are saying, अच्छा ये करते हैं. They will all have consequences. You have to be prepared for them. Atmanirbharta in defense. You see, I'm paraphrasing the Prime Minister. He says technological self-reliance was always a slogan, 1947 se. This time it is about getting innovation, creativity, enterprise, liberating them from the scourge of process and procedure, niyamo ka jal. These changes have to be made. Today, after the Prime Minister's visit, you have General Atomics partnering with an India startup. It is here. One day you must call them on your show, 114 AI. Spacecom partnering with another startup on AI domain awareness tool. तो हमारी समस्याएं देखिए, LAC, LC, terror, China, the Indian Ocean region. And I conclude this way, that it genuinely seems to me that this is India's moment in many ways. Economics, this, that. One thing that could go wrong in Amrit Kal is a national security reversal. And when national security reversals happen and see now how conflict is moving, I think I'll just wind it up. Walter Russell Mead says, 2014 we entered the pre-war era. Abhi IPAC ki conference hui thi, the very thoughtful guy Patrick Sanders from UK came. In this conversation he was saying, ki why pre-war? We are in the war era. You just see Crimea, Georgia, Nagorno-Karabakh,
Ukraine.
Kosovo, Ukraine. Look at the poor Americans. They know the pacing challenge is China. Unki ek report leak hui hai, the mighty Americans don't have 7 days of missiles and munitions to fight in Taiwan. Admiral Paparo कहता है that the D-17s and D-21s have changed the naval game in the Western Pacific. The ability of the Americans to intervene in Western Pacific to their allies is question mark. They want to pivot there, and Putin interrupts the game. And when Putin se deal kar rahe the, Middle East. So now those 11 aircraft carriers and $850 million, 850 bases and $950 billion, they are unable to underwrite US foreign policy anywhere. No wonder Biden को carrier तो भेज दिया Gerald Ford. But they are saying, no, Iran has got nothing to do with it. They don't want to get into. They know it is China. Now, is this coincidental or is this part of statecraft? He is stretching the Americans. So you see today geopolitics, national security are converging in such challenging ways that we really have to be smart. So I'm saying this government has taken great steps, these 4-5 that I have outlined. DRDO reform, unprecedented. Committee बैठी है, ordnance factories.
Corporations बना
But we have to go a long way. So despite doing all this, I mean, my conclusion is that given the threats, we need a comprehensive national security makeover. Sometimes these conversations are not understood. Unless they are understood, people will not be able to.
Colonel Bakshi, I'm going to ask you about, which you mentioned about the phones and things. Is it possible what we are hearing is that they didn't use telephones at all. These meetings which were happening, it was in that traditional way that only by word of mouth. Is it even possible to do this kind of coordinated strikes by air, by land, by sea, by doing all this without using cell phone technology? And to bring it in the Indian context, if it was to happen to us, if 20,000 terrorists coming from land, Rajasthan se aa rahe hain, Sindh and Rajasthan, they're coming in from the IB, they're coming in from the LOC, they're coming in ऊपर से आ जाते हैं कश्मीर में, they come in from Kutch area. How do we combat this?
See, let me first get you into the context. The communications were opened. We have a term in the army. We call it radio silence. Okay, we were the mobiles were not there, but we had radios. So we used to call this something called radio silence. Till the time
Turayas?
No, not Turayas. Our normal
sat phones.
The
the normal VHF and HF phones.
Okay.
So when somebody is going into the battle, so we just don't talk because the chatter comes in. See, I strongly believe in one of my training courses. I had actually given a presentation where then, and I'm talking of 2003, I wrote in my starting point. I said, the future, he who controls the electromagnetic spectrum will control the future battlefields. Okay. Now, this electromagnetic spectrum is a big leak. Now, who can control it without using it? When I say control, there are two controls. You are controlling the enemy's communication. You're trying to listen into him. And second is, how are you controlling your own electromagnetic spectrum? Not using it. It will only be used when you say it is the HR and the D-Day. Now that I am going to strike.
But all these meetings, they were not using it.
No, not at all. And what they were meetings, they were using what you wanted to listen. Or rather, what they wanted you to listen.
Misinformation.
So misinformation part was being done. But the actuals was not being done. Actuals was purely without anything. And you got to be very, 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 very strict on it.
See, no, but like the hostage situation, you landed out there, you raped that women, and then you put them in. But that communication,
No.
that
That's what I'm saying.
trunk aa rahi hai, usme dal rahe ho aap,
Once he has crossed,
then it doesn't matter.
then it doesn't matter. Thereafter, it is part of his war tactics or part of his brutality or part of
And
the
there is nobody
operation.
sitting there to monitor what
because
he is talking.
No, that part he wants you to see. He's opened up then.
Haan.
He's opened up. He's TikTok. Every child has. Everybody has. Our Prime Minister, I must say, what a futuristic man. TikTok बंद करवा दिया हिंदुस्तान में.
Yeah.
वहाँ पे TikTok सब यूज करते हैं.
And they apparently what we are hearing is that they are telling their children, they're telling parents, take TikTok off the phone.
So this is where exactly I'm saying tech is very important, agreed. But tech can be deceived. That is where humility is needed. They used those 19,000 people coming in, as you said, कि एक लोहा लाया, दूसरा बोल्ट लाया. अब मैं एक सिपाही हूँ. I am searching this man. I see just as a rod. जा. दूसरा सिपाही बोल्ट देख रहा है. तो 3-4 लाइनें हैं, चल रही हैं. एक साथ जब इतने लोग अंदर आते हैं.
Right.
So you
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis. So it's like सरसरा की. And your mind is working on क्या है? कि weapon तो नहीं है कोई, explosive तो नहीं है. वो टुकड़े ला रहा है. अब ये सिपाही इस सिपाही से कनेक्ट नहीं कर पा रहा है कि वो दो टुकड़े जाके जुड़ेंगे. I'll give you a story about this. It's a wonderful story.
Right.
There was a factory in which there used to be a guy who used to every evening, get a wheelbarrow, and on the wheelbarrow used to put some mud, रेत जो निकला फैक्ट्री में से, and that guard would check कि, and that guard every day would make him overturn the whole wheelbarrow, okay, and wouldn't find anything and he'll put it in. So this continued for 8, 10, 9 days. Then finally the guard he said, "यार I'll spare you. You tell me what have you been borrowing from here?" He says, "The wheelbarrows."
Yeah.
Every day he had a new wheelbarrow.
Oh.
Getting? So exactly this is what is happening. You're looking for something else. कि factory वो जो बंदा आ रहा आप उसको नहीं देख रहे हो. He is the information. He is the man whom you are welcoming in.
Yeah.
So that's where they failed.
And also, first, before I ask the next question about this, suppose there's a multi-pronged attack on India. How do we get to know that these
Like
people
a lot
are...
of people were tweeting, a lot of Pakistanis were tweeting that
ये हम करेंगे.
कि अगर 20,000 पाकिस्तान से लोग आए तो इंडिया तुम क्या करोगे?
हाँ.
There were very angry reactions also.
Those were machoistic reactions of Pakistan. Okay. We are not at the cost of complacency. We are kind of little better off. But if you recollect one of those Mohali cricket match, 5,000 Pakistanis went missing. आज तक आप नहीं ढूंढ पाए हो. They came in on visas to watch a match. I may be wrong with the figures, but a lot of them went missing. Now tomorrow, after 10 years, 15 years, when he's settled, I'll give you a case. So I was in Jaipur. So one Paki, this is around Parakram.
2001.
2000,
Operation Parakram.
2002. 2002.
Two. Yeah.
Okay. So they pumped in people. This guy comes in. He goes into a ghetto of Jaipur. जहाँ पे तब भी भैंसे कटते थे, गाय कटती थी. It is a ghetto. He marries a local woman. He has a card, a resident card. Okay. Now this guy marries this woman. She's a little doubtful about. So to ensure that there is economic security or something, he buys her a auto. Right? And they get married. Now that card is from Hisar. So if you start monitoring this man here, okay, जी उसका पति है, कहाँ से है, जी हिसार से है, शादी वहाँ हुई थी. A local guy may do some investigation within his, jurisdiction. He'll not go to Hisar. Unless somebody like me or somebody who's a central agency makes an effort to find out. वहाँ पे भी एक स्टोरी बन चुकी है कि साहब वो तो यहाँ था और शादी करने गया. Unfortunately for this guy, उसको पैसों की कमी पड़ गई. And he went to Bhopal. He was already in this under surveillance. He went to Bhopal. भोपाल में जो दूसरा बंदा था जो इसका हैंडलर था बट ऑल्सो वर्किंग देयर, उसने वहाँ से ATM से पैसा निकाला. वो पैसा कहीं पाकिस्तान से फीड हुआ था. इट वॉज इस्लामिक बैंक काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग, राइट. उस चक्कर में 2 जने पकड़े गए. एंड इट वॉज पराक्रम, सो वी वर अ लिटिल मोर अलर्ट. Had it not been Parakram, and when he was questioned, this was just a transit point for him, Jaipur. He was to, from here, after spending a couple of months or year, he wouldn't transited from there to another area. And that was his permanent place where he was to settle down. So he's already made a alibi. मैं उधर का रहने वाला हूँ, मैंने इधर शादी की, मैं उधर गया. आप कहाँ तक जाओगे ढूंढने? But fortunately for what? The guy was staying very close to the camp. Parakram was there. We were alert. We were looking for new faces. So we were able to zero down. अब ये जो बीच में आप कह रहे हो, ये अचानक कोऑर्डिनेटेड एफर्ट में एक दिन उठते हैं. That's what our sleeper cells, ना. They are sleeping like that. And one day they decide. अभी वो तो कह रहा है ना कि वहाँ बंदा जिंदा होने जीने के लिए नहीं पैदा होता है, वो शहीद होने के लिए पैदा होता है. और जो बंदा इतना रिस्क लेके पाकिस्तान से आपके देश में आया है, उसने इतना elaborately is work to settle himself. He's come for a purpose. And they have a tail of his. अगर नहीं करेगा तो वहां कुछ कांड हो जाएगा. अब एक दिन अगर just and they start. You are not prepared. अब रोहिंग्यास देख लो आप. इतने घुसे आ रहे हैं. अब इन रोहिंग्यास के अंदर कितने genuinely refugees हैं और कितने नहीं हैं. आपका पूरा जम्मू में तो लेके गए हैं. दिल्ली में आपकी गवर्नमेंट जो है वो बिठा रही है उनको ला के, नहीं जी आओ 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 आओ, आप तो हमारे मेहमान हो, घर दे रही है उनको. अब इनके अंदर से आफ्टर ऑल पीपल हु माइग्रेटेड टू यूरोप, दे वेंट टू यूरोप सेइंग वी आर बीइंग वी आर बीइंग हैड इन आवर कंट्री. आपने 20,000-20,000 आदमी इलीगल माइग्रेंट्स पहुंच गए. उसके अंदर 10 उनके भी तो हैं who under that cover what you call is a Trojan. ठीक है. So इतने सारों में 4 Trojan भी तो चले. Trojan is not in the terms of a virus, but in the terms of Trojan as in Trojan.
Yeah, the Trojan horse. Yeah.
So you have accepted 2,000 people. There may be 20 of them out there in those 2,000. आप इतनी भीड़ के अंदर कितनों को आप स्कैन कर लोगे?
So it comes back to that position about being a soft state, hard state. Because there are these political decisions which are taken, where, and also maybe Mr. Netanyahu also thought that when you keep striking a terror group, the presumption is that unki hawa nikal gayi, that they have lost out their ability to strike because the repeated strikes on it. But you forget that they are ideologically inclined towards eliminating you.
Before he says, I'll just...
Sir.
We work as government officers, and I'm being very clear about it, I'm very candid about it. We work for the 3-year tenure. I will change. Somebody else will come. He's come from some other field or some other area, not connected to this place. उसको 1.5-2 साल लग जाएंगे समझने में. As you said, वो ideologically है. वो आया है, वो करने आया है. वो टेन्योर के लिए नहीं आया है. वो हम टेन्योर बेस्ड रह जाते हैं. मेरे 11 महीने में, मेरे 2 साल में मैंने क्या अचीव किया. So those are very superficial achievements.
But Mossad and Shin Bet and they were not. Their mentality was not that tenure based.
No, not in the,
but I'm talking about the political.
I'm talking in our context.
In our context, okay. So you tell us in our context, sir, that is it like that because of political expediency and because of the general mentality of saying कि हाँ भाई they can reform themselves. If you are good to them, सांप को दूध पिलाते रहो, they will, शायद वो नहीं तुमको strike करेगा. Is that also an Indian way of looking at things?
No, देखो, so let's debate this hard soft state business.
Right.
So what is India? India, Vasudev Kutumbakam, but we also, Vivekananda said that the world is a gymnasium where people come to make themselves strong. So I'm saying we've had both outlooks. Spiritual thinking, yeah, let me quote Chanakya to you. Chanakya says, अपने शास्त्र को भूलोगे तो संस्कृति खो दोगे, शस्त्र का त्याग करोगे तो राष्ट्र ही खो दोगे. Now, if you agree with hard power, I mean, here is Chanakya. He's even more brilliant than Kissinger. Why go to Kissinger? Listen
So
to your
keep your
Chanakya.
Kshatriya spirit alive.
Both. I'm saying both. What has happened in our case, that other narrative has got peddled. Vasudev Kutumbakam. First class. It is in one context. But in another context, Vivekananda is telling you that it is a hard world. Play the hard ball well. A moderate hawk wali kahani. Now, what is hawk? Some people call me a hawk. My sisters think I'm a moderate. God knows. Hard power. What is a hawk? The Americans say a hawk is a specialist of hard power. So just like there is an economist and there is a sociologist, a hawk is somebody who investigates the metrics of hard power, economics, say military. So what is wrong in it? We should have both. A sensible state should have both. जो दूसरी थी, you just see. Look at terror. See, when India wants to do something, 10, 12 years back, we used to say कि भाई we are a raucous democracy. क्या करें? रोज तो एक बॉम्ब फटेगा ही. अब तो फटना बंद हो गया. So it is really not soft hard. It is a competent state. I can be soft, I can be hard, and I can be competent. So why can't we be competent? Terror, now we are on common. Touch wood. Terror is a very difficult thing. कल को कुछ हो जाए. But really nothing has happened for pretty long. और पहले लोग कहते थे नहीं साहब कुछ तो होगा ही. In fact, the army was told something will happen, so always be prepared for reaction.
हाँ, जो साइकिल बॉम्ब्स होते थे ना.
मुझे
At that
पता
time, I remember.
Transistor bombs and cycle bombs.
Yeah. So
And
at that time,
every 2-3 years there would be a case कि आज सीपी में वो डस्टबिन में बम पड़ा था, सरोजनी नगर में डस्टबिन
But
में.
Ajit, the point was to explain it away by
explain
saying
it,
raucous
yeah.
democracy.
That
भाई
इतने
कौन सी
साइकिल हैं
democracy
कि
कहते-
सारे साइकिल थोड़ा ना चेक करेंगे. This a security expert told me this.
अपना साउथ ब्लॉक के सामने भी तो
So
एक
it is
cycle
really
हाँ.
बिल्कुल.
अरे उसके Bombay Stock Exchange, that how can we check all the cycles which come to Bombay Stock Exchange? And in America, when there was like at one point of time they picked up all the dustbins in one area कि dustbin में bomb हो जाएगा. मतलब you get paranoid.
So
then,
Smita,
right?
this is narrative peddling.
हाँ.
Army में, whenever we talked anything beyond the mainland, we were admonished. No, we are not an expeditionary power. Foreign policy, MEA, ये वो. Go to the address of the Prime Minister to the combined commanders in 2015, Vikramaditya. He says, prepare yourself to protect Indian interests and citizens across a range of threats in the world. Prepare yourself for range and mobility. Is this not expedition? What is expedition? Not to jackboot around the world. It is to develop sophisticated capacities so that you can intervene when your interests are threatened. So ये narrative peddling हो जाती है. Today I have the confidence that I am reasonably senior. I can say, of course, we are expeditionary. But when I was a colonel, I would get admonished कि क्या तुम बात कर रहे हो? We are not expeditionary. So these narratives have to be punctured. And so it neither soft nor hard, competent state.
Did you
India.
think that hard state karte they started believing, which you had asked initially, they had started believing in that hard state will not be frozen in fear or frozen in incapacity
Exactly.
to attack back?
I'm saying a 6,000-year-old civilization cannot be a soft state.
No, I'm talking about Israel.
No, Israel. We'll come to
1700 BC.
So now the other issue about int and all, it cannot be pedigreed. For example, Mossad mat kha gayi, but Israel is a nation, it will come back.
It will come back.
America, CIA has failed many times, it has come back. At one time, our int agencies were not rated very well, but you have to give them the credit today. We have been on the top of terror for the last 6-7 years. It's a huge credit. So it is really not a matter of pedigree. You have to keep proving
remember what you're
yourself.
saying
और
when
जो
we-
int वाली जो बात है ना, it is a challenge. National security is a challenge. Anybody say I've been a GOC around a LAC, things can go wrong. No matter what you do, things will go wrong.
Murphy's law will apply.
But you have to be prepared for a reaction. Like जो शुरुआत की बात हुई थी, that head business. So I will not say heads and all, but see, if you ever I rang up my boss and said, "Ye sir ho gaya," he would say, "Put the phone down, do something, then come to me."
Exactly.
So it is, ये एक ethos सा था. You can't ring him up and make excuses. He said, go get the body or get 2 bodies from there. And then we'll speak. General Saha. So ये एक ethos था which... So I am of the firm believer that deterrence is from the battalions on ground. So therefore, this big good system we have of reasonably autonomous battalions, empowering the commanding officers. These are very important attributes. जो हम इजराइल मिलिट्री IDF को अब हम इन्वेस्टिगेट करेंगे, see, this kind of structural failure, they also have to be other weaknesses. politicization of the Israeli military.
One of
Every
the
military
issues.
officer is a politician. Ben Gantz, Netanyahu. Jada politics ho jayegi, these things will suffer. These other debates about a woke military. Some things don't work in the military.
Because there are a lot of TikTok videos where their
so-
women are dancing, making reels, and
Women
it's-
officers.
Israeli women
Soldiers.
troops, men troops, a lot of this LGBTQ activities.
See,
people
some things
talking
will
about
never be
those.
politically correct. Ajit. Like, say, I'm from the National Defense Academy. The National Defense Academy sorts you out in those first 2 years. It's brutal. But when I look back, I'm extremely grateful because it toughens you up in so many ways. They are not politically correct. You cannot say. But अगर हम ज़्यादा ही correct हो जाएंगे in the military domain, I'm not saying that, you go berserk in some ways. So it is these, अभी जब IDF की ये सब चीज़ें निकलेंगी, such structural failures cannot happen without a deeper disease. और भी खामियां होंगी, वो निकलेंगी. Command and control, this, that. You see, so militaries have to be nurtured culturally, structurally through reform. See, when I was quoting Manekshaw, you see, look at our chaps, what wisdom they had. Manekshaw was asked, is the Indian military political? He said, we are deeply politically conscious, but consciously not politically committed, which is a very fine thing. कि भाई हम समझते हैं, but we have taken a, shall we say, a well thought through decision to always stay above politics because it pays. This is the point that I'm making. You have to be aware of politics. Counterinsurgency is nothing but armed politics. If you don't understand the politics of that place,
Sure.
you will fail as a commander. Yet you must know how to stay above it because it doesn't pay for the military. ये IDF and all, I think the reservists on strike, or they were on strike, और अभी आप 300,000 mobilize कर रहे हैं reservists.
So ये after your podcast and after a couple of podcasts, some of the comments that come is, तुम बार-बार पाकिस्तान पे क्यों बोलते हो? Now the bigger enemy we have is China, and पाकिस्तान तो खत्म हो चुका है, उनके पास तो पेट्रोल भी नहीं है. This is also a mistake, isn't it? To think that the LET has been neutralized or something.
The
What we were
Pak army,
talking.
because on some
State
day we
actors,
see,
non-state actors.
someday we see articles coming, पाकिस्तान आर्मी के पास तो टैंक में भरने का तेल नहीं
तेल
है.
में, हाँ.
But if you
और हम
look at
खुश हो
the,
जाते
if you, हम उस पे
खुश
5
होना is also becoming complacent.
Complacent, actually.
Right. So now you tell us that at what point of time does the intel apparatus should not become, is this a learning lesson that we should never underestimate a terror organization, that it's been neutralized या अब इनमें हिम्मत नहीं है to attack?
I was kind of a hint head of South Kashmir. Kokernag was the last place where we thought कि यहाँ पे कुछ हो सकता है. Tourist place. अब गड़ोल हुआ. We lost a CEO, we lost a major साहब, we lost a JNK police officer. वो कब strike करेगा? We are at constant war with an ideology. You must understand that. And with Pakistan as a neighbor, you just listen to I generally sometimes keep shuffling through videos. There is a hate there in a certain level. There are good people, I'm not saying there will be good people, but who's listening to these good people? There will be fence sitters. The fence sitters won't talk. Majority, there is a ingrained hate against you. जब तक वो हेट है और उस आदमी के उस वाले स्ट्रेटा ऑफ सोसाइटी में रोज बंदे बनेंगे. So you are at constant war with an ideology of there. So you cannot be complacent at any given time.
And sir, you would agree, all these videos of Israel bombing Palestinians, killing, in which people are dying, now all those videos are getting circulated all over the
इसमें
world.
दो टाइप के वीडियो आ रहे हैं.
हाँ.
एक वीडियो वो आ रहा है जो इजराइल का ऑफिशियल आ रहा है, ठीक है, वो तो हवा में दिख रहा है. और दूसरे वीडियोस
जो पैलेस्टीनियंस
बना के डाल रहे हैं
and
छोटे बच्चों को. इट्स वेरी सेलेक्टिव नाउ प्रोपोगंडा. ठीक है, इट इज हैपनिंग एंड ह्यूमन लॉसेस विल टेक प्लेस बिकॉज जो उन्होंने किया है दे शुड हैव मेंटली बीन प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट कि ये होगा.
And I guess the way they are reacting and circulating these videos, they were prepared for this influence operation also.
It is part that
It is part of that.
It is
And
they want to polarize
those
the world.
videos are going to create jihadis. Now there is a
In Harvard.
geography.
They're creating it in Harvard.
They're creating Harvard.
In these Ivy League campuses.
Yeah.
There are students in Ivy League campuses who are saying intifada, intifada. I can't believe this.
क्यों अभी तो आपका एक वो पकड़ा गया जो कि वेल्लोर से इंजीनियरिंग करके बैठा हुआ था, शाहनवाज या क्या नाम है उसको, अभी तो एनआईए ने पकड़ा है. अच्छे कॉलेज का पढ़ा हुआ है, सारे इंजीनियर्स हैं. दिस इज हैपनिंग इन योर बैकयार्ड.
In campuses in India.
In campuses in India.
There was a support march for the Palestinians after this attack. Now all these videos are going to create jihadis and more jihadis who want to do some action in the neighborhood. Whether it's the
So I was
western
asking
side
you
or
about
the
that
eastern
earlier
side.
thing. Both of you can tell us what happens in this kind of just on tactical terms, in this kind of a multi-pronged attack. We have a peninsula. We can get from different parts of the sea. They can come in. They can come in from it's a pincer attack. Can come in from the east, west. They can come in from the north. We've got enemies all around. Our position is not very different from what Israel is. Somewhat different, maybe we can be a little more that the enemies around us are not probably.
We actually got diverted when you asked this question.
Huh.
So what I'm trying to say is that in a scenario like ours, okay, we have a very limited desert area. Okay, we have a lot of population. We've got a multicultural population. So when I was talking about people, they don't have to do this kind of a piercing attack. They're already placing sleeper cells. They are all these PFI people who are now getting caught. They need not send people from there. There will be people within. Their handlers would be here. And when these strikes will happen, it will happen from within. We won't get that kind of attack that what we are seeing in Israel. I'm not being complacent, but majorly in our scenario, it can happen from within.
So do you agree that implosive attacks are more of a threat for us than this kind of a?
How far can he reach? See, our LC is very, very strong.
सर हमारे में अगर 10 किलोमीटर भी आ जाए, you're talking about lakhs of people because all our LOC पे we have highly populated towns and villages. If you're talking just desert, even जोधपुर तक अंदर आ जाए तो.
Kannur mein, I remember when I was a lieutenant colonel, these guys had come across and they took a pot shot at the army commander. वो बचा था.
वो बच गया था, हाँ.
In the EME battalion thing. So you see, our problem is that we have.
But they had crossed over and.
अंदर अखनूर शहर के अंदर EME battalion में when the army commander went to visit.
This
I'm
was
forgetting his
when,
name.
sir?
When I was a lieutenant colonel, I think 2000, 99, 2000.
99, 2000. He came.
Very close shave it was. Came into Akhnoor.
In fact, that guy, the army thought they've neutralized everybody, and this guy was in a drain. So army commander came in after that. कि क्या
After the
हुआ?
area had been sanitized.
हाँ, and that is when this guy from the drain shot at the army commander.
He missed.
And the CO died. The CO EME battalion died, and that
He
army
knew-
commander बच गया.
He मतलब they also know आपकी drill कि आपके incident के बाद पक्का वहाँ पे लोग आएंगे senior authorities देखने. General, if you recollect, Sir General Inder Verma, I served with him when he was in the GOC 19. वो ऑपरेशन चल रहा था. अच्छा सर सब कुछ न्यूट्रलाइज हो गया. जनरल साहब पहुंच गए. वो घर जलते घर के अंदर से उसने गोली मारी. He got shot in the hand.
You see, in Akhnoor, General Pathak was the GOC, and we did that very, what shall I say, successful TAR 11, TAR 12. उन्होंने एक small note लिख के भेजा कि वापस मारेंगे, और मारा 9 महीने बाद, up in the 28th Brigade. So there was a Sikh-Lai battalion. So heads काट के ले गए थे. So I mean, these things keep happening.
So no, but these implosive attacks, I'm coming back
Yeah,
to
so
my
the-
question,
so then
where
the-
civilians are targeted.
बिल्कुल. So ये जो आप कह रहे हो ना, see, we need, India का challenge is different. It is, you need differentiated
Actually,
capabilities.
you have to-
देखिए, China के
What differentiate?
differentiated. China के against you need a different kind of. आपने EM spectrum की बात कही. Now look at this. Today EM is not only communication, it is data. So there can be no chatter. I can pass things just through data.
People are using social
And
media.
look at why it is
chat
such bigger
rooms.
challenge. See, some time people don't digest it. China का जो strategic support force है, it is a service. It is like raising an Indian army. They have raised a service to dominate the EM spectrum. Now what that will do in a conflict, you don't know. But why have they raised a service? How do you respond to that challenge? Do you raise a service? Where is the money? The challenges are so humongous.
And they have pumped in their phones, embedded. मतलब आप अगर अपने आप को बोलते हो कि मैं इसको काउंटर कर लूंगा तो आप वो काउंटर भी नहीं कर सकते.
क्यों कौन मतलब देयर नेटवर्क्स आर नॉट देयर ना. टिकटॉक तो हट गया इंडिया से.
But your phones are there, na? They're
Right.
embedded with Chinese hardware.
Just let me complete this. देखिए चैलेंज, look at ये रॉकेट्स की इतनी बात हो रही है. China has got a rocket force of ballistic, cruise and hypersonic missiles. Numbers unlimited. Tomorrow, see, we have got caught up in grey zone. If there is an all-out conflict, he will rain these missiles across your cities. आप ये इजराइल के केस में देख लो. What is Netanyahu's biggest fear? यहाँ तो हो रहा है. Hezbollah rocket arsenal is 150,000 rockets. कल को उसने अगर इजरायली सिटीज पे बरसाया, Netanyahu will have no option but to open up two fronts. Now, this is how escalation can take place. So I'm saying in the Chinese context, this is one challenge. The terror, as you were asking me, of course, Pakistan remains a threat. Nobody can be undermined. Neil Ferguson or somebody said that there is every possibility of a terror threat recoalescing and a 9/11 happening in Asia. You cannot rule this out. This is, failure of imagination. तो बिल्कुल ये चीज़ें हो सकती हैं. अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है? How do you smartly respond to them in budgets prioritizing? And therefore, when this government is telling the military that please get cost effective, they have a point. I gave you the American example. And see, let's seriously consider this. America defense budget $900 billion. China 290. Ours is about 80-90. Why is it that in similar differentials, defense budgets, China is creating displacement anxiety in Washington, we don't create similar displacement anxiety in Beijing? Because of these other reforms, cultural, structural. देखिए talent. Z says the contest between superpowers is primarily a contest for talent. And then he rattles off those famous Chinese sayings. They do 1,000 talents plan with the CCP and the PLA. Their strategic technological projects are being driven by Nobel laureates. You read Ian Easton inside China's global strategy. China is this kind of sophisticated threat. It is a superpower. और एक ये टेरर वाले हैं. बिल्कुल हो सकता है वो जो आप कह रही हैं समुद्र से ये वो. No, how do you respond to them? They are differentiated threats. And therefore these quick solutions we take ना. एक साल कुछ नहीं हुआ, RR को निकाल दो. These are immature calls. You cannot, if you have served in the valley, you know why numbers matter. And this is why I agree with him. Numbers always matter because you physically dominate. We
What
should
does
not
numbers matter?
say, should the Baramulla division have 12 battalions or 14 battalions? Numbers. तो या बड़ी cost effective ये करेंगे कि भाई वो this versus technology. Can 6 HHTIs replace 6 people? No. They can complement. It is these kind of things we must not see. General Rawat, may his soul rest in peace, he used to keep asking us, why do you need 40i ammunition? It was very difficult to justify. What has Ukraine told you? You need 90i. Biden is shopping for ammunition. So ये national security में some of these things are so complex that before you take any decisions, so I go back to my original.
And sir, all of a sudden, things in which you have believed for many years, they change overnight. I remember attending so many seminars that I could even tell what the person is going to speak next, because it would be like, now we are entering an era where the wars will be short, swift, thrift, all that English. And now, right after the Ukraine war, this has totally changed.
यहाँ हम कहने लगे थे कि लड़ाई नहीं होने वाली.
We reduced 40i to 15i. Today we are seeing people are fighting for over it's close to 2 years in Ukraine. So the lessons have changed, and it changes overnight. Sir, one thing that we were talking about how this is going to increase or how it is going to achieve Hamas's objectives. You're talking about lone wolf attacks. Now, what do you mean by that? And is that possible even in our context?
See, we were at a stage earlier where we were getting foreign terrorists or foreign trained home-bred terrorists. Now, with everything available in the net, he has to just procure local, items to prepare an IED. You recollect अभी बैंक कर्नाटका में there was one chap in the auto rickshaw, he did it. So these are homebred, self-motivated lone wolves. Now this self-motivated, when I'm saying, is these videos that are circulating. The first attack was bravery, killing non-Muslims. The second attack is the victimhood of the people in Palestine now in the Gaza. वो मर गया, वो बच्चा मर गया, उस चीज को वो बात ही नहीं करेगा. Now this is what is going to motivate people around. And there will be people जिनके बारे में आपको पता भी नहीं. When you have a scanner, you scan the population. You have your peace systems. You have got the beat constable in an area. Okay, you have got a chowkidar in the village, a numberdar in the village. They're supposed to, when they earn, they take salaries, they're supposed to keep an eye on the population around them. When I'm talking about these lone wolves, there will be a man who sometimes may have been in a scanner, that he's been attending, certain congregations, he's attending certain meetings.
सोशल मीडिया में पोस्टिंग स्टफ.
अभी वो सोशल मीडिया को देख देख के उसको मोटिवेट होने की जरूरत ही नहीं है कि किसी मीटिंग में जाए और किसी मुल्ला मौलवी से वो सुन के आके मोटिवेट हो जाए. वो सोशल मीडिया देख के मोटिवेट हो रहा है. आपकी इतनी बड़ी पॉपुलेशन है, आप कितना सर्विलांस डाल दोगे सोशल मीडिया के ऊपर? What you're now getting little cases that NIA is picking up somebody from there, somebody from here. So it's all ECM, it's all electronic में, ठीक है. बट एक बंदा ऑब्जर्व कर रहा है और वो धीरे धीरे करने लगता है. He need not buy to make an explosive device. He need not buy all the items from one place. He may go to Kerala, buy one piece from there. He may come to Delhi into the Bhagirath place, buy a circuit from there. He may go somewhere else. He collects it. And he's already self-motivated. So ये इतनी बड़ी population में कहीं ना कहीं तो होगा.
सर, रोल ऑफ मीडिया को बताइए. What is the positive role that media can play and what are the negative things that can happen too?
Today in Israel, okay, there's a lady journalist who's saying कि the Israeli guy has told that there are
beheadings of babies.
They're not showing it. One odd thing has come of burnt or something. If they've shown a cradle, it's just an empty cradle with blood there. There are people in the media questioning this also. वो तो इजरायली बोल रहे हैं ना, तुमने देखा क्या?
Yeah.
ठीक है. But there is a person who's being responsible enough not to show that gory thing, and there is another lot who's saying कि नहीं, if you
haven't shown it,
we don't believe it.
Osama bin Laden was killed. Was his body shown? No, but because President Obama said it, you believe it because the American president said it. But here, you're not willing to believe because it's an Israeli general who's saying it.
So the media has to be very, very responsible. Media has to, like in the case of 26/11, I have so much of information. There are two people in the second floor, my sources are saying. Somebody is listening to you. You're going live. The message is being passed on Thoraya or whatever the systems through Satcom कि वो second floor पे उधर बचा हुआ, छुपा हुआ. That line has to be drawn. That is where the responsibility of the media comes in. It is more of the individual journalists. So that's why I've come to that. They have not shown
the SOPs all go for a toss when you're doing this kind of coverage. It's your inherent, that split-second decision whether you want to beam out the location, beam out the real story, or wait to make a sound judgment at that time. So have you, when you were posted there, we've had this discussion in the earlier episode with Colonel Bakshi. If you could tell me that, how did you deal with disinformation, misinformation when you were in Kashmir?
See, my experience with the media there is that by and large the media was very understanding and responsible. I mean, what used to happen then is this, that very often the media was taken into confidence. We told them that what had actually happened, but don't put it on for these reasons. I mean, things went wrong and all that. So
why didn't they stop internet services in Israel all these days? They could have stopped it, right? Like what has happened in Kashmir several times. It's happened in Manipur.
Directly on set, all this that was being transmitted. You see, you can shut down your BTSs, the base tower stations, your internet. But what do you do which is being directly transmitted to the satellites being controlled by somebody else? If you look at Thuraya, 70%, the office is in Dubai, okay, it's in UAE. 70% of the officers posted there are ex-Signal Army officers from the Signal Corps of Pakistan Army. That whole system has been created for a purpose. While your other SATCOMs were there, your Inmarsat was there. If it's normal communication, Inmarsat could have been used. But this has been specifically done to cover a certain area. Middle East, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. If you can go through what Thuraya, how it works. Okay, so it is for a specific region. Now these guys, when they're entering inside, everything is directly. आप उसको कैसे करोगे? You cannot block it.
And it could have also affected the Israelis who may be trying to reach out to agencies if they had shut down.
Of course. That is also there. It is both ways.
Could also get
it is both ways. It is both
It is
ways.
so complicated today. जैसे US में वहाँ ये कहते हैं, and in our case also, there is so much of good information available on OSINT,
Awesome.
which the military needs. तो वहाँ तो debate है, how do you connect military communications with OSINT? Institutionalize it through some checks. Because OSINT is even more valuable.
More valuable.
आप ये Starlinks ले लीजिए. See, today Starlinks, while it gives the civil communities internet, it is also giving the military. So say in Ukraine, जो logistics है is Amazon based of Starlinks. जो उनको छोटे छोटे parts चाहिए वो Amazon से demand करते हैं.
So what are
the
the-
drones are on
drones.
edge computers, edge computing. So ये need ये है कि आप civilians को deny कर देंगे तो it is getting extremely complex. But see the other part of it. When Ukraine was wanting to target Crimea, Elon Musk thought that if they target Crimea, will it escalate? And whom does he consult? Russians. Russians tell him it escalates, he cuts it off. So this technology power is becoming so powerful. People are asking, is Elon Musk CEO of SpaceX or is he National Security Advisor? ये जो civil technology companies की power इतनी बढ़ रही है. See, I was watching this Israel thing. Now it is
biggest
in the
example
nature
is
of the
Huawei.
democracy, what you were saying.
Yeah.
Many channels I've seen, I don't remember their names, they are saying that these images are bad, they are gory, but in the interest of transparency, we are showing them. So you may cutting them off in one channel, वो सब दिखा रहे हैं बाहर.
Yeah.
I've seen many of
No,
them.
you're talking about the tech power of companies. Huawei is one example. Look at the way, and there have been reports. In fact, you also tweeted about it. That were these terrorists using Huawei sets and network
See,
to talk to each other?
हुआ भी देखो यहाँ बदमाशी शुरू होती है. When China talks of military civil fusion, Huawei is a good example. They say the PLA teams are embedded into Huawei. So जैसे वहाँ facial recognition projects ये वो जो हैं Huawei, they say it's civil military fusion. But what are the badmashi which Europe and all caught on? They were so built into their system, their surveillance systems. So कहते हैं Beijing में every citizen has 2 cameras. So if you are say a bad citizen and you ask for a Uber and you criticize Z, Uber नहीं आएगी. They cut you off from the system. They were planning to recreate these systems in Europe and UK, and they almost bought it, but for Trump. तो ये जो है ना PLA का उसमें, it is not innocent. Now this is where the Chinese come in. They by nature are like that. We shouldn't be so trusting.
No,
But we have done it.
What
We
I'm
have done
asking,
it because
We
of
have
the
done it.
pressures of commerce.
No, what I'm
Pressure of commerce that we've got Huawei inside.
So how do you reverse that? And one point I want to make about the media, all the other issues. In our case, media में मेरा एक चीज़ कहना है कि national security की जो debates हैं, I'm talking of the deeper debates of national security, they must happen in our media. They are not happening. आप बाहर जाइए, they are far deeper. That is one thing if we could see, how we can make these, like we discussed so many issues today. Each of these issues can be discussed in the media.
Sure.
And when more and more people get aware, I'm saying if you common sensize national security, उसके ज़्यादा फायदे होंगे.
No, what I was asking about Huawei was, sir, that is it possible that they could have talked over Huawei sets to each other and the Israelis could not listen to it? Was this possible?
It could be possible. Not denying it. It is nation interests.
But see, I'll tell you a hunch.
But most likely what they've done, I personally believe, though Huawei, I tweeted it, keeping it as a possibility. They have just not used technology in communication.
This is the point.
That is how they could have kept it so secret.
ये एक बुनियादी बात है. Like in my experience, whenever you plan offensive operations, you were told ये बात हो गई, अब इसकी बात नहीं होनी. Just destroy it. Whenever we have to, we will meet separately. But don't put it onto any digital device. Don't put it, because moment you do that, it will proliferate. So the plan should remain in the head, and it does.
So when we
But can you? The question is, इतना scale जो था.
scale.
वो
So when we started this
Scale के
conversation,
अंदर simple सी कहानी थी, sir. Plans were made well. My guess is, few commanders knew what they were doing, because the procurement of the rockets, the procurement of the drones, the procurement of all other things.
so what, rape of women and
No.
killing, beheading of children is not
No,
SOPs.
that part has come at a very, very late stage. The executing force, the majority of the force, would have been told about, you see, जो ट्रेनिंग हो रही है ड्रोन वगैरह की, वो यहाँ नहीं हो रही है, वो कहीं और हो रही है. That is where I am saying human need failed. That people went out of Gaza. They have got trained somewhere else.
Yeah.
The pieces and parts have come in without any chatter on the net or any chatter on any electronic thing. Thereafter, because अगर यहाँ ट्रेनिंग भी कर रहे होते तो कहीं तो मरमर होता that toggle that he is using to fly the drone.
by a set of people who know the Israelis very well.
So Ajit began this conversation by saying that, whether in military campuses, whether everybody has read about the invincibility of the Mossad prowess. Now, as we end this conversation, I just want to ask, what has happened there? Will this be discussed in military colleges, in intelligence organizations, and lessons to be learned? Does that happen now?
Yes, certainly.
It does.
Our track has a place called the Call, which is Center for Lessons Learned. So every small operation in J&K, every big operation is taken to our track, it is discussed, dissected in detail, and it is disseminated.
And then
Many of the
Sand
key
model
lessons
discussions will happen.
are presented in army commanders' conferences and all. So this is
It's a process.
institutional process.
And then there are rules and regulations put in, or there are SOPs put in that ये गलती उन्होंने की, हमने ये नहीं करनी. Is that what happens?
Oh, yes.
Okay. If that happens, what role can civilians play? Those of us who are not part of this establishment, what role can civilians play? Like, for example, those people who were walking in, the innocent people who were walking in along with those operatives who crossed the border, who carried this with them. Those guys, if somebody is suspicious, they could have just tipped off somebody. I'm just giving you a hypothetical thing. What can I, as a civilian, contribute to this exercise?
You can contribute by critiquing the military honestly and pushing it to higher levels of performance.
You critique the military and you're considered an anti-national, sir.
No. Any civilian, anybody who writes and resonates with the military, I mean, I have seen it. Chiefs will say as a colonel, isko pad ke lao, bada acha article hai, discuss karo, I want it. He may not know. I mean, it's human nature.
Sure.
Anybody who's good, if you write something, it will be read, it will be dissected. In fact, this is ek badi kami hai. Look at the tradition in America. Civilians resonate with the military. And that is, civil-military fusion. In their colleges, the best professors are civilians. Today, who's driving AI in Pentagon? Craig Martel. There is a technology advisor in CENTCOM, John Moore. AI, iska Google Cloud ka VP. Ye civil-military fusion hona chahiye. MOD should have civilians. Today, it's happening outside. DGS, digital diplomacy. This year, the government has opened up 100 vacancies, I think last year also, JS and downwards, which are not open to central government employees. Private sector coming in, talent. So national security is an all-encompassing endeavor. Talent from any source, any attribute. Bilkul hona chahiye.
So what is your view on this? What can a civilian do to prevent an attack like this, and God forbid an attack takes place, what can a civilian do?
First, let me come to it. Our population is on a very different, आपको दिल्ली पुलिस रोज बोलती है कुछ आपको सस्पिशियस दिखता है बताओ, आपको हर पुलिस स्टेट के अंदर नंबर्स दिए जा रहे हैं. The awareness has to start from the homes, from the schools. A normal civilian who's living a normal life, उसके लिए ये जो आज आ रहा है ये तमाशा है. 3 दिन के बाद ये तमाशा खत्म हो जाएगा. He'll be looking for a new tamasha. But no lessons will be learnt. In a population of say about 1 lakh, maybe one man may take a lesson out of it. Maybe, अगर कर लिया तो. अदरवाइज हम तमाशबीन हो गए हैं. हम एक तमाशे से दूसरे तमाशे का मजा लेते हैं. सिंपल. सो look at the number of telephone numbers have been given. Anything, let us know. Every time Diwali comes in, the Delhi police, I'm just taking one police. It's everywhere across the country. The police publishes big full-time pages in the newspapers. Paper पढ़ता कौन है आज की तारीख में?
I'll give you one very
Somebody else's responsibility.
very good example. Osama bin Laden का जो chase था, you read Leon Panetta's book. उसकी वो picture भी बनी है, क्या नाम है? Zero Dark Thirty.
Zero Dark 30.
When finally they get intelligence. Achha, by the way, bin Laden survived so long because he cut himself off from the electronic world totally. That was a big, कुछ भी नहीं था. But when they get some indications and they have to finally take the call. So Leon Panetta, before Obama tells him, I think in 2 days, let's take a call. So the last day when he conducts the meeting with this, I think in the CIA, and he goes around the table. All the chaps, the career CIA professionals, he tells them, okay, finally tell me, what percentage that Osama is in the house? All the professionals tell him 50, 55, 54.
Playing safe.
There's one girl, Lisa,
Yeah.
I forget her
Yeah.
name. She says, sir, 96%. Panetta is shocked. He says, this girl, how is she? He calls her separately for a lunch. And she explains to him in technical ways why uski shadow, ye wo, why it is so.
And for years, she did nothing
and
other
know
than that.
who she was. The CIA had just broken from their standard pattern and had gone for university kids recruitment.
Fresh brains.
It was that girl which tells Panetta, go ahead, Obama believes him, and it is a success. So this is why I'm pointing to talent. And sometimes it is very important कि जो normal stock है ना, उससे हट के पूछो. तो everybody matters. I'm trying to make this point that civilian talent, ये जो आप कह रहे हो,
And in Intel get off the beaten path. I mean,
off the beaten
yeah,
path. It comes
career
from
Intel नहीं है, but you
career.
take
See, हम
others
लोग ना
also.
तो ये जो lateral induction की मैं बात कर
Lateral
रहा हूँ, it is
induction,
a very
yeah.
important attribute. Government must get resourced at multiple points. हमारे यहाँ ये रिवाज नहीं है. Otherwise outside, the Antony Blinken ये क्या है? They are basically international affairs experts.
Yeah.
So they are in a think tank. They rotate into government, rotate out. It helps. It helps both.
Reforms absolutely
See,
necessary now.
Fresh minds are not, clouded by the system.
वो 3 or 10 year वाली बात नहीं है.
So he comes fresh. He's got new ideas.
Right.
Like when we were brought in, we were direct intelligence officers. We had newer ideas. He would be, he would understand my plight. When we came in, हमको लोग humiliate करते. अरे तुम तो ये करते हो.
कि combat में नहीं जा रहे हो.
नहीं कि तुम तो यार घी तेल पकड़ते हो. तुम्हारे को तो सिर्फ किसके यहाँ पे क्या चल रहा है वो करते हो. Because over the period the system had used them for that purpose.
Right.
For us, when we came in, we were fresh minds, full of josh. We were looking at a perspective not like the Fauj or not like the people who were in the infantry and came into the intelligence or in the artillery and came into the intelligence. Because they were already, packed, their brains were packed that way. We came, we were open wool, open cotton. कहीं पे भी घुसेड़ दो. And we were fighting two fronts. One, this old, thinking about us. And the second, that we would prove ourselves that we are not what you think about us.
Right.
It took us. मैंने कई बार शराब पी के कांच, मतलब we are in the cocktail and somebody comes in, अरे तुम मिंट वाले, ठक, और कांच का गिलास चबा गए. अगली बार मत बोलना. करना पड़ता था because we had to make us place. So this is exactly all these new minds that they come in.
ये जो street creativity है ना, we must not demean anything.
No, I'm not demeaning that.
No, you're not demeaning. I'm reinforcing your point. I'm reinforcing what he's saying. You just see, look at these HIMARS. HIMARS came as these precision platforms, Americans wale. For 3 months, they worked very well. Kherson, वगैरह, Kharkiv में. Suddenly, some gaming enthusiasts, Russian gaming enthusiasts, learned how to fiddle with their GPS. That precision platform has become an inaccurate mortar. The Americans are up. So I'm reinforcing your point. Street creativity. Now look at the
They're spoofing it.
Spoofing it.
Your
Now,
satellites are spoofed.
And when the HIMARS came in the initial
Oh,
success
yes.
days, they were being cited as the best thing that the Americans
So
have given to
pedigree
Ukraine.
doesn't
And
back.
Russia would be
Point.
defeated in a matter of weeks.
And you see, Ajit, the practical consequence. So the Americans said, अगर उनके gaming enthusiasts कर सकते हैं, हमारे कहाँ हैं? तो बोला क्या कि सर आपके जो gaming enthusiasts हैं ना, सबके वो full body tattoos हैं. And militaries don't take people with full body tattoos.
God.
So the Americans have amended their recruitment rules to get कि full body tattoo है, आ जाओ कम से कम. So these are the cultural transitions I'm speaking of. Military, अब हमारी military में ऐसे transition करना is next to.
आप देखो, you remember you
दाढ़ी
called
मूछ वाले नहीं, out. You can't have दाढ़ी and mooch. You can only have
you
mooch.
called Colonel Pavitran.
Right.
Now, Pavi was a
It's
person,
one of the most disturbing podcasts I've done, sir, that Colonel Pavitran wala, because when you got out, you felt that भाई सब कुछ अपने ऊपर से नीचे तक is available to our foreign enemies.
अब आप देखो ना, when Colonel Pavitran came, he was a, मतलब I keep laughing sometimes, he's an ex-NDA, ठीक है, arts graduate, went to a Sikhalai regiment, converted to intelligence. He has no background of science. वही जो 10वीं तक पढ़ी थी, 11वीं का इम्तिहान दे के पास हुए थे. And he's today one of the brainiest guys as far as cyber is concerned, cyber security. Now, he and his OC had already tried everything to get themselves funded for one
एक
software.
computer.
एक computer, एक software के लिए.
Yeah.
No, he's absolutely right.
ठीक है?
Who's that
And
naval?
he spoke to me because I was not, packed with that old mind. The moment he said, he took me to that cyber cafe, he showed me something. I couldn't understand the architecture. मतलब इसने करा क्या है, कैसे किया, ये नहीं समझ में आया, पर ये समझ में आ गया. हमारे लोगों के पास तब तक हिंदुस्तान में ईमेल आईडीज का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं था. ठीक है? एंड दैट साइबर कैफे यूज्ड टू बी क्राउडेड बाय Iranians and Iraqis and all those people in Brigade Road. And when he came out, he said, कुछ समझ में आया. I said, तूने क्या किया वो मेरे को नहीं समझ में आया, पर ये समझ में आ गया ये फ्यूचर है. I pulled out money, gave it. Today, when I sleep in the night, I'm such a satisfied man. Yaar. Thank God.
But there was
You
this
see,
point, yeah.
Because you see, when I was young in the military, we were generally told that it pays to confirm. CONFORM. Go with the system. Today I've changed my mind. Mavericks matter. Not only
Mavericks
Pavitran. Who's that naval officer who's parked in California? Brilliant mind, जिसको Navy ने निकाल के मार दिया. And today he's coming. He's invited by the Prime Minister, by Mr. Chandrasekhar. He was ahead of his times. I don't want to name a guy. We have a colonel who has designed an indigenous WhatsApp. He's finding problems. We have lovely minds, brilliant minds. They need to be
the kind of resistance Pavi has gone through, because I was that man who gave him that platform to start. At every मतलब when he went and told the generals कि सर इसको ऐसे कर सकते हैं, उससे सिर्फ एक गलती हो गई. He said, सर इसको हम अपने जनरल्स पे भी सर्विलेंस डाल सकते हैं कि कहीं गलत तो नहीं कर रहे हैं. उसको उठा के तंगधार फेंका. जहां लैंडलाइन नहीं थी, इंटरनेट तो छोड़ दो. ठीक है? And I'm putting it on record.
But such people always find a mentor. मिल जाता है.
And he found a mentor in his CEO.
He found a mentor.
And he found a mentor in his CEO, and the CEO was an ex-ACC, sir. What a change.
Yeah.
ठीक है? So ये होता है. We need brains. We need fresh minds. They are there in the streets.
And
See,
now,
there is
you're talking about giving opportunities, sir. Now we are, I think, you in our track, when you were there are a lot of innovators now coming from within the army. Now there's this Captain Major Raj Shekhar.
Young minds they are.
Young minds, they are working. And when you talk to them, they don't sound like the usual infantry or engineers officer. They sound like somebody...
With no disrespect to any of these
Yeah,
people
but-
who are working in...
Yeah.
as
And-
I'll tell
But
you
अजीत, दो चीजें हैं. ये भी धारणा गलत है. The best brains have come from the infantry. Sundarji
No, I'm not
was-
saying- no, I'm not demeaning infantry,
No, not
sir.
demeaning infantry. I'm saying infantry ये बहाना करती है. Sir, मैं तो infantry का हूँ. अरे भाई, you are letting down a legacy because infantry, Sundarji, S.K. Sinha, E.A. Vas, ये बिल्कुल ये बात नहीं है. इसी एक बड़ी अच्छी इंग्लिश में कहावत है that a nation which draws a distinction between its soldiers and its scholars will have its fighting done by cowards and thinking done by fools.
Oh.
You should not draw these distinctions.
What a
You should not draw these distinctions.
I will write the.
They are
write-
entirely
write-
foolish.
Write this. How brilliant.
How
They're entirely foolish. Or when we were young, we were told India में no, you must be an all-rounder. ये भी करो, वो भी करो. There were no distinctions. अभी ये कुछ हो गए हैं, distinctions, thinking. This is an oxymoron. Thinking general. I mean, if you're a general and you can't think, what bloody general are you? ये oxymorons है. Ground soldier,
Scholar warriors.
warrior. You're supposed to be everything. And the challenges tell you. Today the Israel challenge tells you have to be a technologist, you have to have a strategic mind. Zameen ki sochni hai, bada sochna hai, everything. There are
So
no
how
escaping.
long do you think that this conflict, if I want to call it conflict or this operation, when do you think that, or do you think this is going to conclude at all?
Very difficult. See, Netanyahu has to restore his political legacy by doing something. The IDF has to redeem itself.
We have to be ready for a surprise from him as well.
It is going to be a long drawn thing.
And bloody.
And see now, look at his challenges, the crosswinds that he faces. Domestically, there is that ultra-wing right, which will demand everybody's head. Ultra-wing right hai udhar. Internationally, there are pressures for him to pull back. America will not want it, ye not want it. Amidst a legacy to prove, abhi danger kya aata hai? He must not do anything which is militarily not prudent, which is not pragmatic. Now that is the challenge. How he rides all this, it can be a sustained. My hunch is that the bluntest option is a land campaign. Anybody who has done it knows it will take months and years and nothing will come out of it. But he yet has to do something. अब वो क्या है? SF, covert operations. Let me also tell you, they're not going to spare the Iranians. There's going to be some huge covert. It is going to be an
why
enlarged
else
contest.
would America send 2 carriers?
Exactly.
So it's no covert action needs 2 carriers to come to the sea
So
to
it
their.
is-
What do you
very
think,
difficult.
Colonel Bakshi? कि ये लंबा चलेगा?
Israel तो 50 साल से चल ही रहा है. There will be a lull, then it will increase. There will be a lull, it will increase. ठीक है. So as of now, what General Shukla has said, they have. See, when Hamas did it, they knew it that there will be a world pressure to stop this kind. They knew that this kind of